Would it be possible to put them on the side screens so the faces would be bigger?
Maybe.
I'm thinking maybe I should go down there so I can see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move.
Okay.
Oh, and do you want to? Email. Yeah.
I can. Brittany, yes.
Now we're talking.
I'm zooming on first.
Actually, I think you would sit out in the middle. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting for September 16th, 2021. Welcome, everybody. It looks like we have almost everybody on Zoom. And sitting at the front of the thing, we have so many people here, I couldn't see you. Anyway, welcome. The first order of business is we have public comment. And I have a form from Zachary Wynn.
Yes.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to ask him some questions.
Okay.
And you understand you have 3 minutes?
I do.
Okay.
May I take this off, please? I don't think there's anything.
You know what? I'm going to allow you to because I can't understand you with it on.
Thank you very much. I'm going to start right now. My name is Zachary Wynn. I'm here on behalf of myself, and I am also a journalist from IthacaCrime.com. I'm going to read a comment that was left on the Reimagining Public Safety website by what appears to be a Tompkins County sheriff. To the Tompkins County Legislature, I am an employee of the county, and I am obviously using an assumed name, hence I will be targeted as a racist just for providing the quote wrong input. I do not think any of you realize how much you have harmed us, demoralized us, and lost any trust we may have had in you. None of you seem to know what you were talking about, but that hasn't mattered to you either. None of you knows or understands a single thing about law enforcement. For us, we listened as Martha Robertson said she feared allowing her grandson to run to her mailbox because of the color of his skin, as he might be harmed by law enforcement. She was talking about us, your own employees. We listened when Amanda Champion stated that we should just, quote, take it because people of color have supposedly been taking it for years from us, your own employees. We remained silent when you added a convicted cop killer to your ranks to help, quote, reform us. And when Ann Corman apologized on his behalf as if he was somehow being victimized for the topic just being mentioned. We listened as you said our footprint had to be reduced in order to protect our own community from us, your employees, but then responded to a request to handle group gathering complaints during times of COVID. We even performed this in the city of Ithaca when IPD refused to do it. We also listened to Svante Merrick say that our department needed to, quote, step up and handle even more calls in the city when he can't even properly lead his own department that happened to have double the staff that we have. Not to mention we make far less than his officers and do not have enough people to even fill our own control zones. Again, on you. Your employees, parentheses, we are not racist, do not maliciously harm people, have not traumatized people, and we are certainly not bastards. While you and everyone else were working from home for the past year and a half, we continue working as if the pandemic did not exist. Even if we tested positive, we had to work unless we had visible symptoms. You, on the other hand, have done nothing but harm in return. Our staffing is down at least 8 people, which is an entire shift worth. That's on you. We didn't make it so people no longer wanted to work here. Those that remain are now stuck working countless hours of overtime because of your mismanagement. But we continue to serve our community while keeping quiet, as that is the professional thing to do. We still care about our community, even though we are no longer have faith and trust in you. And I would suggest that you stop discrediting your own employees when you have been running the county, many of you for years, and perhaps seek out training on how to lead people, or at least coexist with people who obviously don't like. I spoke with the head of the health department. They have no data available on overdose fatalities or the drug supply in Tompkins County is contaminated with fentanyl. I'm talking about recent numbers, not 3-month-old numbers. The overdoses are up over 100%. Are the fatalities also up over 100%? COVID numbers are being updated continuously by the county. Why not overdoses? Cocaine contaminated with fentanyl was just responsible for the deaths of the comedian and several others in Los Angeles. Is this phenomenon playing out in Tompkins County? The sheriff's report stated that the department would be using lateral transfers to offset the loss of manpower. Under Sheriff Olin stated previously that recruiting officers for transfers was hamstrung by the police reimagination. How are you going to recruit new officers when this reimagination plan is the exact reason you are losing them and they're not going to work here? And the quote, unprecedented situation, quote by the sheriff, faced by the department is resulting in massive overtime. Is the manpower shortage affecting response times, specifically for Narcan administration for overdoses? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who wishes to address the committee? Seeing none, any changes to the agenda? I do have a couple items I'm going to add to the chair's report, but I'll do that at that time. We have minutes from July 15th, 2021. And could I get a motion to approve the minutes? Shauna moves. Dave seconds. Thank you. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Having trouble hearing you. Is somebody speaking? Are we ready to vote? Right? Dave?
Yes.
Shauna?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you. Okay, we have some appointments. And let's see, down the back here. We have Dana Haff, an at-large appointment to the Stop DWI and Traffic Safety Board. Could I get a motion on that? Shauna moves. Glenn seconds. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Ready to vote? Dave?
Yes.
Shauna?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So thank you for stepping up, Dana Haff. And then we have a resolution on page 12 of your packet. This is abolishing the Tompkins County Family Court Advisory Council. Could I get a motion on that? Henry moves. Dave seconds. Any questions or comments? Okay, are we ready to vote? Dave?
Yes.
Shauna?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you. All right, county administration. And we have a resolution, and I was also going to ask Deanna to give us an update. Is Deanna there? She is. Welcome, Deanna. If you could give the committee an update on where it stands with the advisory board we are forming.
Now or in a minute?
Either way, you want me to do the resolution first?
Sure, and then I will defer to Lisa too if she has other comments she'd like to make as well. So I will follow
Okay.
your lead.
Very good. This is on page 13 of your packet, and it's the resolution on budget adjustment and appropriation of unspent funds from 2020 and prior years to various accounts of the departments that report to the Public Safety Committee. And can I get a motion on that? Dave moves. Glenn seconds. And you're moving around on the screen, so I have to find you. Any questions or comments on the resolution? All right, ready to vote, Dave?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you. Okay, Lisa or Deanna, whoever would like to go next?
Well, Rich, I don't really have any update. I'll defer to Deanna about the CJC update. And I'm assuming that you are, under the chair's update, going to discuss the centralized arraignment meeting that took place?
Yes, I was going to, yes.
Okay.
But if you'd like to lead in on that, please do.
Well, I'd be happy to inform my colleagues, many of whom were at the meeting, that last Friday, the 10th, the Office of Court Administration convened the local magistrates, law enforcement, the assigned counsel, DA, and several other community stakeholders to discuss centralized arraignment in Tompkins County. And my take on it is that there was widespread consensus among the group to move forward with centralized arraignment. It's something that we've been wanting to do for years, and COVID really demonstrated that virtual arraignment was possible and relatively successful, I would say. So there was some discussion about moving forward, whether the city would continue to do arraignment in city court. Some more details to be discussed there, but that the county public safety building would be the site for centralized arraignment. There is $30,000 available in state funds to do, minimal modifications to create a space for it. And our sheriff is supportive of that. And so the Office of Court Administration is going to be putting together and has drafted an application to move forward. They will be looking to the county legislature for a letter of support to move forward. And we could be bringing that forward at the next Public Safety Committee meeting for the committee to consider and move forward with the full legislature. That grant is due, I believe it's October 10th, 11th, something like that. It only comes around once a year. So, but again, there was widespread support and consensus for this moving forward. And it's, I think, a vision that has been long held in Tompkins County. So we're pleased to see it move forward. And Rich and others who were there, feel free to add in anything I've missed.
I'm going to call on Lance in just a moment, but one of the key issues is how long a potential defendant needs to wait before they sit in front of a judge. And the idea is that you don't want to detain people unnecessarily, especially if with bail reform, they're not going to be held anyway. If the city joins in this effort, there's the opportunity to run some of the centralized arraignment through the city court system and some of it at our public safety building, so that you can have sort of a split shift, like at 8 in the morning and 8 at night, and you limit the amount of time somebody might be waiting for arraignment. More to be said there, but there's real advantage from the standpoint of policing and helping police get back on the road rather than sitting with a defendant. At any rate, Lance, maybe you want to expand on that very briefly.
Thanks, Rich. I think the issue you referred to is one of the concerns with a centralized arraignment is with bail reform, a number of the people brought in for arraignment are people who aren't going to be held there in that they're not bail eligible, but there's an issue of whether a order of protection should be issued. So there was some concern. I know I'd expressed some concern about how long those people would be detained. You don't want to hold someone for a lengthy period of time merely to address the issue of an order of protection on that. I think, we're probably looking at 2 arraignment periods, one in the morning, 8:30 to 10, and then again in the evening, 8:30 to 10. Or I'm sorry, 8:30 to 10:30. So about 2.5 hours each period. And I think what some of the judges have indicated, if there's a real concern there, they may call directly to try to process those people immediately, which would be a workaround, I guess. But it's an issue. I think in theory, I tell you, I think we should have 24/7 arraignments, but that's not really a long-term solution. We've been doing arraignments here, after-hours arraignments, for 7 years. We were one of the first counties to start. And I know my attorneys are pretty worn down after 7 years. We've lost people. We have difficulty covering shifts. I know the judges are worn down. One of the practical things is it can be counterproductive if you have a judge who's tired of getting up at 2 a.m. and it affects, like it would any person, how they're going to handle the situation on that. I think the judges are worn out, the attorneys are worn out. It's difficult to sustain 24/7 is the reality. So we have to go to a cap, a centralized process on that, which will be the 2 hours. I mean, in the big concern, it will be the people who don't qualify for, who can't be held on bail, but have an order of protection issue, something like that. And so I think we're gonna have to monitor that and look at some workarounds. I know some of the judges have said they're looking at some workarounds on that. They're not going to be comfortable having someone detained long-term. And so I think we're going to have to see what that means. But for the most part, this will probably be an efficient system. I know it's a problem for the sheriff, and for the state police, which are the main 2 bodies we deal with when you have just a couple officers on the road and they have to sit with someone for a couple hours. I always look at that as my opportunity to speed home. So I think it's not a perfect solution, but it's the best, probably practical solution we have. If that answers your question, Rich.
No, and you're right, that you have to advocate for that position. Having spent a lot of time doing assigned counsel work early in my career, I was really impressed with the inefficiency of having the arraignments at all the separate courts at all separate times and just chasing all over the county. And as an attorney paid by the hour, I guess I should have said this is great, but I was just baffled by it. I think this is really a big step forward. If we can make it work, we certainly have to watch it really carefully to make sure that it's being done fairly. But I think there's real progress here. So this is exciting. Yeah. Anyway, more to come there. Deborah, did you wish to speak on privilege of the floor? I got a note saying you had hoped to do that. You're on mute.
Oh, computer problems. Yes, I would like to speak on privilege of the floor. I thought I was actually going to be the cleanup batter here. That Tali and Paula and Richard Rivera were going to be there.
And I believe they're here.
I'd
Yeah.
be happy I'd like to brief the committee on a proposal, a collaboration among, okay.
Deborah, are you hoping to speak on the same
If
issue
they're
they're talking
there,
about?
I'm playing cleanup, so you want to start with one of them?
Yeah, your connection is
Or
pretty
you
terrible.
want me to go forward, Rich? I'm
Deborah?
trying to go forward.
Deborah? Deborah?
Yes,
I think you're-
if you need, have any questions, yes. We're
Okay,
all
you-
in the issue.
Deborah, your connection is pretty terrible.
I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
couldn't
Why
even
don't
get-
we hear from,
Let's, yep.
yeah, we'll hear from everybody else, and if you have stuff to add, we'll put you in at cleanup, okay?
Yes, I guess so.
All right. Let's go to Deanna and our advisory
Good,
committee.
thank you.
Yes, we'll get back to this.
Thank you, Rich. I'll keep it brief. We sent out an invitation to approximately 8 volunteers to serve on the subcommittee to establish the Community Justice Center Advisory Board. It included 2 legislators, which would be Rich from Public Safety and Shauna Black. Both have graciously accepted those appointments to serve on behalf of the legislature. We've also sent the similar message to Cynthia Brock and then Laura Lewis. We're still waiting to confirm a couple of those appointments, in addition to several other community members, also knowing that this is a short-term appointment just to develop the rules and governance with the city and the county advisory boards. We'll be reviewing the language that authorizes the establishment of these groups. And then from there, we will determine what the guidelines are and working with in collaboration with our partners. We will look at hosting a meeting in the next few weeks based upon the availability of everyone. Then from there, our goal is to complete the task within the next 3 to 6 months, knowing that this work will be done by the Community Justice Center staff. I appreciate the generosity of the time of the sheriff in terms of agreeing to serve on the CJC search committee, in addition to Under Sheriff Olin. We have, again, all this work takes a village as we shift from talking about the advisory board to the other parts, knowing that it's going to take staff to do this work. And also I appreciate our department heads as we go through the process in their support for the process as well. So in terms of the advisory board, we will have a meeting, the subcommittee to establish the advisory board. We'll meet in the next couple of weeks, and that's all that's fit to print at this point. Thank you, Rich. And knowing that we will provide process updates and at the next meeting.
So more to come there, and thank you for the brevity. That was great. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
You bet, Bennett. Go ahead.
Deanna, can you send us the names of the people that you invited on the advisory board, and the name of the people on the search committee, just for our benefit?
You mean for the hiring for the CJC?
For the hiring for the CJC, also for the people that you've asked. You mentioned
Mhm.
4 people who are on the advisory group, but you didn't mention the other 4. So could you
Sure.
just send us the names of everyone?
Sure. And the only reason why I didn't mention the names is because they're residents, and some I'm still confirming the appointment of. But as soon as I
Okay.
I don't want to say someone's on here if they haven't authorized.
Right.
So that's the only one.
And that's why you can send it to us by email, which would not publicize it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, comments for Deanna? All right, let's keep going. Chair's report. I do have an update on LEAD, Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion. We had a meeting this week, and the process document is in very good shape. They are getting ready to launch in the next, I think, week or so. And this is, as you know, has been a multi-year effort interrupted by the pandemic. But LEAD is finally going to get off the ground. I think this is some exciting progress. So we're going to see how that rolls out, but that is finally happening. Any questions or comments about LEAD? Okay, I have two groups here that wish to provide some information to the committee. I'll have Richard Young go first. He's from the Dryden Fire Department. You should have gotten an email, committee members, with a document that he brought in. You can come up and sit at the table if you'd like, but I'd like you to use a microphone if you could. So again, this is Richard Young from the Dryden Fire Department.
Hi, Richard Young here. In the past, the county has always purchased our radios as far as for our fire trucks, officers, and they've opted out of that as of now. And I'm here to ask you to reconsider. I've sent out a little sheet that has some of the costs. We have tried for grants. And a lot of you probably know volunteer departments are slowly dwindling down. And I think that if you guys cannot help us out with radios, that means now we're gonna have to do, I don't know how many radios you can buy off a chicken barbecue, carnivals, a lot of things, I've been a member for almost 40 years of the Dryden Fire Department. And when I joined, you used to do maybe 40, 50 calls a year. It was a lot of fun. You could have time to do bingo every Saturday night to raise money. If you look around at your volunteer departments, a lot of these departments have some really nice looking buildings. And a lot of it was strictly by carnivals, bingos, hard work. And you used to have 50, 60 members. Now you're down to the same group of about 15 or 20 every time, and even less than that for fire calls. And trying to balance a budget and then throw in the cost of these radios I think is going to be a little bit hard to take care of. We have a lot of departments around here. A lot of us actually work inter-county we actually deal with Portlandville, Portland, Hartford, Virgil, a lot of different departments we go mutual aid to, and they also help us. In the 40 years I've been here, we've not able to talk to them on the radios we currently have. We did put in for a grant down at the departments in the town of Dryden. We did get a small grant, but I'm pretty sure that the rest of these volunteer departments throughout Tompkins County, that the training that we used to do was not a whole lot. Now the state has said, this is what you got to do. And now you're taking time away from your families to do more training and more training. And now the county says that we're not going to be able to purchase the radios for you. That's either less training, more fundraisers, or you just don't have the people showing up. They're going to finally just say enough's enough. And I'm just really looking for some help from the county, see if we can do something about the radio systems here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. And my understanding is that the county did a one-time payment several years ago, but did not commit to replace radios. With that said, the problem you brought to us is important, that we want our firefighters and emergency responders to be able to communicate. And it does, I think you've well pointed out in your papers that you've given us, that it's not just a Dryden issue. This is across the county. And I would suggest that the Public Safety Committee should be thinking about how do we make sure that there is adequate communication systems. And Mike and Jessica, if you want to weigh in, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you had something to add here, love to hear it.
Yes, first of all, we'd like to invite Rick to come and talk to us. This is the first that we're hearing about this from him. I would like to say that we have never opted out of that program. We know, and we have purchased the radios that are in the vehicles. There was a one-time purchase for portable radios. The radios in the vehicles continue to be doers' responsibility. We have paid for maintenance of them, and we will pay for replacement of them. If they wish to purchase a tri-band radio, which will enable them to speak with other counties, then there is a huge price difference, and we have worked out an agreement that grant money will pay for the difference of that radio. So there was never an opt-out of the program that he is speaking to.
Jessica, I was told that they were not going to be paying for the radios this time.
I don't know who told you that, but you were misinformed. But please feel free to come in and speak with us about it and we can work it out.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that's great news then, at least towards the vehicle radios. The portable ones, Jessica, you're saying are treated differently.
Correct. The portable ones are department responsibility.
Okay. Well, perhaps you could have the conversation with emergency response on the present program. And if you think there's a further issue that we should be involved with, please come back and talk to us again.
Okay, yeah, if you could look at the portable prices, that would be actually nice also.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
I anticipate we're gonna have further conversation on this. I see, Shauna, you have a question?
Yeah, I know there has been some conversation, and it's just the beginning of the conversation with Harlan. And I met with him yesterday, and I know that he's been working with Michael a little bit and even Derek in regards to what appears to be a new communications tool. People can hang out for a little while. I think that there might be a money contribution as well as some grant.
Yeah, Shauna, you're breaking up quite a bit.
Sorry about that. But I do think that there will be a possible grant opportunity, as well as this might be a great tool that can provide communication between counties and all of our county agencies.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll come back and talk with us again. We got more. Okay. Let's have Tylee with us. Come on up. And if you want to sit at chairs, you can use a microphone. And I think this is the issue that Deborah was going to contribute on. So if you can pull the microphone forward a little bit and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Tali Mugambi, Executive Director, Ultimate Reentry Opportunity Initiative.
Hi, I'm Paula Ioannide, Professor at Ithaca College and Research Assistant on this project.
Okay, and I think Richard Rivera is with you as well on electronically. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Tylee.
All right. Well, welcome. Thank you for having me, Rich, as we come here to talk to you guys today about this wonderful opportunity to really address the issue of recidivism here in our community in Tompkins County. To get down to it right, URO's model is humans humanizing humans. And I think this project that is a collaboration between URO, OAR, and INHS is groundbreaking and can contribute to the process of healing in our community. So how do we get here? URO back in 2018 started to kind of investigate how to reduce recidivism, what ways can we help our local government, local city, county government to actually address this issue. We evaluated over 100 reentry initiatives across the country. And what we found was that housing throughout the nation was the biggest issue to folks recovering and having a healthy transition. When we found initiatives that actually address the issue of housing, we saw recidivism reduced by 65 to 75%. This housing was always kind of accompanied by a support system and a system of connecting human beings to resources necessary for their transition. So this Sunflower House program that we've kind of worked and collaborated with INHS to develop will address the needs of 12 individuals at a time. We believe that we can serve 20 individuals per year in these houses. What makes this unique is that INHS is able to provide these 12 units at below market rate rent. So $380 is going to be below the amount of funding that individuals will get from their DSS monies when they return to the community. This is groundbreaking. None of the other housing underneath the umbrella of INHS would be able to do this because of the ability to kind of be under a regulation where these houses, these units could be designated for folks in reentry. So we know this is going to be a win. We truly believe in it. So to say that we looked across the country, we saw that housing was an issue, wouldn't be enough to say that this is going to solve the problem for Tompkins County. So what did we do? We embarked upon a data gathering project that included two professors from Cornell, Dr. Joseph Margulies, Dr. Jamila Michener, and a professor from Cornell or from Ithaca College, Dr. Paulie Onide, who's sitting right next to me, and also over 40 students over a 2-year span to conduct research and evaluate reentry in our community. The preliminary data suggests that here in Tompkins County, housing is the single largest factor that contributes to individuals recidivating, combined with a myriad of other factors that compound when individuals don't have access to housing. So we embarked upon a journey of trying to find out what would it take for us to get the housing necessary. We thought about the Housing First initiatives that are going around the country. We looked at mobile homes, but eventually we came down to this working with INHS, and this really happened through the development of relationships, working in collaboration with community members to really problem solve. So we interviewed and surveyed over 55 individuals in reentry to really come up with this information. And so we know that this is going to, based upon all of that information and feedback, that this is going to greatly reduce recidivism for the folks who participate. This is an opportunity for all of our community partners to contribute. We have the Helpful Transitions Initiative, which is working to train the interfaith-based volunteers called the Interfaith-Based Friendship Network. So that's going to be a support system. We have College Initiative Upstate, OAR, obviously a partner here, who are going to contribute to the streamlining of processes so that individuals meet their court-mandated appointments, have programming conducive to the development of individual independence so that individuals are not just staying in the housing unit, but are actually growing and developing because of the reduced stressor of adequate housing and being able to make it to their court-mandated appointments. So with that said, that's the kind of overview. I'm going to let Richard Rivera chime in and talk about the benefits in terms of reducing recidivism and the overall impact for the criminal justice system, and then followed by Dr. Paula Anide, and to talk about the cost benefit analysis for the county.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Yes, this program presents us with a unique opportunity to manage a small but significant number of individuals returning to Tompkins County. One thing about Tompkins County that the persons coming out of prison and returning to this county are usually a very small number, therefore manageable. But what happens is that when they arrive in Tompkins County, those that need housing are not considered unhoused by DSS, by the county. to sit, they have to go into the shelter system, fill out paper, go into the shelter system and wait there 60 days before they're designated as unhoused and begin the process of getting DSS public support for housing. In those 60 days, these individuals are hanging out at the Friendship Center, hanging out on State Street, hanging out in other areas, and tend to get in trouble. And because they tend to miss appointments and stuff like that, they end up at the local jail on technical violations. At one Coyote meeting, I remember the sheriff informing us that 20% local jail population was individuals who were parole violators, most for technical violations, juvenile arrests. This program, Sunflower House, in collaboration with the services provided by OAR, will provide wraparound service for individuals returning to Tompkins County. As Talib stated, we're able to house at least 20 people with the 12 apartments. And we also have, to OAR, we have OAR Endeavor House, which is approximately 25 people that could be housed at any given time through our programs. We believe that these programs make experience of OAR. And because the fact that we are able to provide the services that are stressors to successful reentry, such as housing, access to communication and devices, technology, transportation, because the houses are centrally located, transportation is easy. They're easy walking distance to DSS, cars, and the court system, and employment through services that OAR staff will provide through resume writing, job referrals. We will be able to provide wraparound services tailored to each individual returning to Tompkins County. We believe that by doing so, and with the experience of OAR staff, we will be able to guide these individuals to successful transitions. The Sunflower Houses offer low barrier, low safe housing for individuals who have matured, who are ready to transition, and need minimal guidance. We will encourage independence, agency, and motivate them to successful transition through employment, housing, and social services. With that said, there's nothing more to be said about the program, because the program will have a cost-saving effect at the local shelter, the jail, and the county.
Yeah, if I could jump in with a couple
Not to
questions.
mention the human cost.
Yeah, you have a site, is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
And
We have a site.
and this is managed by INHS?
It's owned by INHS. It'll be managed by OAR, URO.
Okay.
We were able.
Under the same basic model as Endeavor House?
No, this will be Endeavor House. As we transition to this program, Endeavor House will become a house for individuals who have convictions of sex offense. This will be a lower barrier housing for individuals that could house.
But the present function of Endeavor House is the intent to basically expand that, to do more of what Endeavor House has been doing.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
To do that and to also, increase programming. And that's really why we're coming here today, because we need a housing manager to actually be able to facilitate.
Okay, so that's what you'd like to ask us about, is helping with funding for a housing manager.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And where is the location?
It's on Cayuga and Titus. It's two houses. We were able to talk to INSA. We were able to find two houses, some apartments that were unregulated, and they were able to offer it to us at below market rate. They are an invested partner in this program. They're really offering anything they can to make this program work. The beauty about this program is that it's built on existing services. So OAR provides the services for reentry. URO provides the data, the research, the proposal writing, the vetting of individuals, and INSH is providing the housing. These are all communities, nonprofits, who are vested in helping reduce recidivism by reducing the stresses to reentry. So it's a collaborative effort that everybody's invested in.
Okay, and why don't we hear from Paula and Deborah if you have something to add to what we've heard so far?
Yeah, so just a couple of finer points. The focus for this program would be on parolees, whereas, Endeavor House will be for people on probation as well as for sex offenders. The reason for the focus on parolees is that the data shows that there's approximately 7 to 8 people who are in the county jail for violation of parole, and that they are disproportionately African American. And so we believe that this program would actually really radically reduce the number of technical violations by catching those parolees before they actually have to go into the homeless shelter, which we'll do by actually eventually through the Healthful Transitions program that URO has implemented, start doing this process with them before they're released so that they actually have a place to be released to instead of the homeless shelter. Just want to kind of emphasize some cost saving potentials here for the county. And there's some real challenges here because we know that the State Commissioner of Corrections sets the jail budget based on capacity as opposed to actual numbers in the jail. And it is my dream that this county will lead the charge at doing away with that regulation. But essentially, if the county reduced its jail population and to its 2012 kind of standard, right? The money that it wouldn't necessarily spend primarily on personnel for the jail, because there aren't enough actual people. Tompkins County has really been a trailblazer in reducing the number of people incarcerated. The idea would be that essentially this program as a preventative measure, right, would save people from going there, as well as save people from recidivizing for recommission of crimes. We did a few hypotheticals, which I know are hypotheticals, right? It's based on a success rate of cycling 20 people out of there. But we anticipate that essentially by not having the jail have to sort of receive these folks, right, it would potentially lead to enormous cost savings to the county from on jail costs.
Pause a second. Just so all the legislators know, we did email this proposal around 9:30 a.m. this morning, so you have it in your email if you want.
There's many details in the proposal if you want to kind of really look at crunching the numbers, but I'll spare you those. The other cost savings to the county would be in the homeless shelter system, because essentially, if you have fewer people going into the homeless shelter system and you save them from that, even approximately 20 people, right, would yield, approximately $190,000 in savings, right, to the county's contribution to the homeless shelter system. And we know that that's a partnership with the state, but even if you just parse out the county's contribution, it should still be some significant cost savings. We also anticipate a reduction in policing costs, because again, if you reduce the number of people who are in the homeless shelter, are doing technical violations, are potentially recommitting crimes, that's actually less police interaction that needs to happen, precisely because the idea and our ask here for the over target request is for a housing manager to really work with this group of people who are housed in these really affordable housing units on wraparound services. And so, and the last point I'll make is about the significant reduction in racial and ethnic disparities that this project will potentially have. And again, we can't be sure about this, but what we project is that because the largest number of the percentage of the jail population that is African-American in the county jail in 2020 was at 30%, and then it actually increased to 45% post-COVID. And also we have essentially estimated that the percentage of people who were sent back to docks from the county jail was 45% in 2019 African-American. What we anticipate is by reducing the number of recidivism, particularly for parolees, as well as people who would be sent back to docks, that we will also mitigate and reduce some of the racial and ethnic disparities that the county jail is currently facing. This is in light of the fact that, the county only has a 4.4% African-American population. So that's a pretty wide disparity that we believe, because this program will be culturally competent, trauma-informed, will really be holistic, will really appeal and hopefully help people in that process.
Okay, well, let's hear briefly from Deborah, and then I see we have some questions. Deborah, see if your connection's better.
I don't know if my connection's any better. So I will just be here to answer any questions because I think everyone kind of hit the high points. And I know you've got a big agenda.
Yeah, we'll keep going then, but thank you for attending. I guess I just mentioned, I don't know that we save money in terms of incarceration costs because we are constrained. We have to have a certain amount of staffing no matter how many people we have in the jail. But I do think there is the potential to save money in other ways. And if we're playing the long game, recidivism is the thing you want to reduce. You just have fewer people involved over time. And frankly, I think the Endeavor House has been a tremendous success, even at that small scale. It's really proven as a model. But let's hear from others. Shauna, and I think Mike Sigler is next.
Yeah, thank you for giving this presentation. I was able to look over some of the information this morning. Particularly the part that really interests me is that there's going to be some housing offered for women. And that's something that we don't have in our county and something that we very desperately need. In looking at some of the rough numbers, typically whenever we're looking at someone staying at our shelter or if they're incarcerated, just from a financial standpoint, we're looking at around $100 per night. And whenever we're looking at programs like this, it's a much different investment. We're looking at around $400 a month for rent. And then the rest of the funding that we would typically pay for sheltering can be used for programs that actually help people have a better life. And so, from just initially looking at the handout that was provided this morning, I think, yes, there will be a fiscal savings, but I think, this seems like the right thing to do. And if we want people to have better lives, instead of coming in and out of crime and repeating the same thing over and over again, we really, really need to look at programs that give them the tools to change their lives. And I think this could.
Okay, thank you, Mike, and then Annie. Mike Sigler, did you have a comment?
I do. Sorry, I had unmuted. My question's kind of there in the chat. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, we can't see the chat here in chambers. So if you,
okay, I'm sorry.
It went away.
Yeah, I'll just read it. I guess my question is, does OAR and URO have experience with managing like apartment living? I asked this in part because Lakeview Mental Health Services, they were formerly a tenant of mine for years. And they've actually moved away from putting any more people in an apartment than just like a 1-bedroom, because it seems like that living with somebody else, obviously it causes a lot of stress. And I'm just thinking it's kind of a similar situation. You get released from jail, you have to kind of rebuild your life a lot. Job and family, and you have all those issues, and just moving in with some people you don't know, it's an added stress. So I just, I didn't know how they would confront that or what kind of experience they had in kind of managing.
Deborah, maybe you could speak to that because of Endeavor House.
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we don't have experience managing apartments, Mike. This will be a new experience. We have the experience basically managing now the SROs. But I think we have to realize we've also studied and visited places like Fortune Society housing in New York City, where there is congregate living with sharing things and basically, sharing kitchens and bathrooms, which is what the SROs do with Endeavor House. There are stressors, but the folks we're dealing with don't have the money to get a 1-bedroom apartment. That's just out of reach until they've gotten employment and gotten their feet on the ground, the choices really facing them are going to be homelessness or shelter or congregate living. So we will be moving people as they get the skills and get work as fast as we can into more private dwellings, if that's what they aspire to. But frankly, it's not within reach for most of our clients when they return home.
If I could just add to that real quick. In the qualitative study that we did of 54 formerly incarcerated people and asked them about the barriers to reentry, it was by far the largest number. The greatest point of discussion was that on the 400 that the DSS allowance allows for emergency housing shelter, the only options they had was to live in Groton, Dryden, or Northie apartments that essentially provided unsafe housing conditions and often the additional stressors of that would lead them back towards reincarceration. And it was that primary data point that we followed in thinking about setting up this program because of the constraint of that $400 DSS allowance, which leaves, and the other point is that they kept saying that because they're rurally located, they don't have access to the central services that they need in Ithaca, whether it's court-involved appointments or access to employment, and that the buses don't provide enough transportation for them to really access that. So again, it was this vicious cycle of the lack of centrally located housing would lead towards the impossibility to fulfill things like employment, court appointments, and so on.
And in addition to that, having the housing manager and having the assistance of Richard Rivera, as well as Deb Dietrich, having some experience in this realm, right? We know that those individuals are going to provide buffer for these relationships that will have to happen within the housing units, as well as there's a vetting process to ensure that we have the right individuals in the house.
Okay, let's go to Annie.
Thank you, Rich, and thank you for this presentation, and really a big thank you for developing this program. I know it's, you have several agencies intertwined to do this, so I know it's a huge endeavor, so to speak. I really like the idea of this being downtown, where, as people said, there's access to, food, jobs, people can get to their appointments and services. Having worked in drug and alcohol addiction and with a lot of people, circulating through the various, either going through treatment or, having recidivism, going to jail or prison. So I know these types of programs are really, really important. So I'm really glad to be able to see you guys to put in the effort to have one here. Just one clarifying question, and it's a little one, but I just want to make sure I read through the information that was sent out. So that was very helpful before the presentation. And Mr. Rivera said 60 days, I think he did, if I was correct, that they have to be homeless. But the document here says 90 days that they have to be homeless or be in the homeless shelter to be considered homeless.
Anybody know the answer to that?
Richard?
Yeah, it's 60 days, but it tends to stretch to 90 because they got to go through the process. At that point, they start the process of applying for benefits.
Okay, so 60 to 90.
And it takes 60 to 90. But I want to the point that was the previous point, I want to mention that the physical layout of these apartments are really unique. The rooms are dispersed throughout the apartment, and it's very little disturbance that one will go to another one's by another one or disturb another person's presence. And each apartment has 1.5 bathrooms, a central kitchen, central living room, and then the apartments are on each corner of the house. So the rooms are in each corner of the house. So it's congregated living, but it's unlike anything that we have seen in any other program. And this is a program that's going to be new to Tompkins County. Tompkins County never had anything like this. And hopefully after the 3 years, we'll be able to establish this as an institution of Tompkins County that's going to be life-changing.
Okay, thank you. Henry?
Yes, I'll be quick. I know that, I know this has been coming for a while. I know that there was discussion of having this come out of the recovery fund. I'm also wondering whether this is part of AOR's request for the budget, which I have not looked at our budget book yet. So I was wondering how the funding is going to be considered.
Yeah, it just, 60,000 of this. I haven't seen what the county administrator recommended yet, but we asked for an over target of 60,000. So 60,000 of this is already in our over target request, Henry. I'll type it.
Okay.
60K.
Well, maybe is Lisa still there? Can she respond to this?
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
I am here and I'm I'm looking it up because the title is somewhat different, I believe, than what, if you give me just a minute, I can get back to you. I'm looking
Okay.
at the budget book.
Thanks. You can just put it in. You can just put it in chat.
I'll put it in chat. Yeah.
Thanks.
If I could clarify sort of the different aspects of the request, because it's a little bit complicated. Part of it is an FTE for OER to have a housing manager.
That's the 60,000.
And that's the 60,000 that was submitted as an over target request through the Human Services Committee.
Right.
And we believe that Deb has received confirmation that the Human Services Committee advanced that request. The other costs are operational, vacancy rate kind of costs that, you know, we have to mitigate, repairs that, you know, and then INHS is doing their own separate sort of mitigation request to, I believe, the city for losing that gap between this very low rate that they're giving to us versus what they would normally charge, okay? But URO also needs some funding for data keeping so that we can actually really set up results-based accountability to prove the efficiency of this program over 3 years, and also for programming, right? So there are kind of multiple components that the three organizations are kind of piecing together.
What's the total?
And they're outlined. The total is 111,320.
Thank you. Okay, Lisa.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up from what Paula said and from my correspondence with Deb earlier. So in the budget is a restoration for OAR core services in target budget. So that's separate from this, but that's around $20,000. Endeavor House case management, $20,000 in one-time funds. And parolee/housing case manager, $50,000 in one-time funds. And then separate from this conversation, but also for OAR, is the College Initiative Upstate program, $110,000 in target funds.
Okay, well, certainly we are going to have a chance to talk about this at expanded budget committee at length, I anticipate. But
And
I
you'll
think
see
this
us
is a
there
great
too.
start. I would like to move on, but I'd like to thank everybody for coming and talking with us today. This is an exciting program.
Yes, and just one more thing. Although there's going to be savings for the county, we're going to be reducing recidivism, right? But then there's going to be the return on the investment with the individuals being able to be restored and being able to be contributing members to our community. And that's the ultimate goal.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any committee members have anything further to say on that? Great. Let's go on to the sheriff's report. Welcome, Sheriff Osborne. I see the undersheriff is with us as well.
Yes, thanks, Rich. Hi, everybody. Rich, I feel bad. You asked me if I was going to come down to the chambers today. I said yes, and now you're there by yourself, so I apologize for that.
That's all right. I got lots of space. I'm thinking of lying down.
Yeah. Anyhow, you have 2 monthly reports from us because we didn't have a meeting last month. So I know there's a lot of reading material. You also have our annual report that took us a long time to put together. And I hope you had an opportunity to peruse that. So I'll obviously take any questions you have. I won't go through all the documents. But now that we have the template set up, we should be able to push these out every year much quicker. And we've gotten a lot of positive response about it. So I do think people enjoy seeing them and getting that information shared. So we also have in, are you waving to? Okay.
I knew you while we're leaving.
Okay. We also have in there.
Michelle's at the other end. Other than that, I'm just filling space.
Okay. Other than that, we also have in some documents on the CIT grant and training. We're really excited about that. Jen put a lot of work into that, as did Deanna. So thank you, Deanna and Harmony at Mental Health. That was definitely something the three of them worked on. And the training for that is going to actually start Monday. And there'll be a mini graduation on Friday. If anybody's interested in checking that out, just let us know.
For the benefit of any viewers, could you just explain briefly what CIT is about?
Yeah, I was about to say that I'm going to let Jen explain all that since she worked on it and has the most information on it. So go ahead, Jen, if you want to jump in.
Sure, I'll just kind of start with where it started. So probably, I think it was a year ago now, the Sheriff's Office took the One Mind Pledge. And just a summary of that, it's just a commitment to working with our local partners to better serve people with mental health issues and or addictions. By doing that, you establish partnerships within the community, you establish a policy with best practices, and then you commit to getting 100% of your road patrol staff trained in mental health first aid, and then 20% of your staff trained in crisis intervention team training. So I started looking for the opportunity and the best people to provide this training. Last October it was, and I came across Dr. Don Kamen, who's the director for the Institute for Police Mental Health and Community Collaboration. So I started emailing him back and forth, and he eventually gave me a proposal. It was pretty expensive, around $18,000 to bring to this department. But I kept kind of hounding him, and he finally emailed me back and let me know about a grant opportunity. That's kind of when I asked Deanna and Harmony to join me again. It's about community collaboration. So we worked on the grant proposal for that for a good month or two, and we submitted it, and we were successful in achieving it. And the good thing about getting the grant, besides getting the training and not having to pay for the $18,000, is they redo the sequential mapping portion, specifically intercept 0 and 1. So we will be redoing the sequential mapping exercise in October, and we will invite the local stakeholders that represent intercept 0 and 1 to that. They also will kind of continue to partner with you for a year after they provide this training, just as a consultant, and they'll provide train the trainer training up to a year afterwards. So that's kind of where that all stemmed from. Crisis intervention team training is just a community collaboration. It's kind of bridging those gaps. We know that law enforcement often is the first responders, whether that's right or not. We often are. So this is bridging the gap, giving them more education, recognizing signs and symptoms, how to de-escalate, being familiar with the resources in your community, so you could give us, a warm, soft handoff to that person. Throughout this grant proposal, I've been working a lot with Harmony, and we've really identified the need to try to have monthly meetings between some of her staff at the mobile crisis team and our supervisors. So that's something we're working on. If you had a chance to read through the grant proposal, you'll see it requires the establishment of an oversight steering committee. They had several different names. We haven't really identified how we're going to do that, but I think that will ultimately maybe fall under the CJATI or a different communities group. So that's kind of a synopsis of it. I don't know if you have specific questions. There's a lot of information, but we've been working on this for over a year. We did the mental health first aid training for all of our staff, including road and corrections, a couple weeks ago. And we have currently, there will be 23 people attending the CIT training. There'll be 9 from our sheriff's office. we opened it up because we want everyone to have consistent training. So everyone in our community is getting consistent service. So we opened it up to all the local law enforcement agencies. Several are sending some. We still had openings, so I opened it up to Dewar. They'll be sending a couple dispatchers to it. Opened it up to probation. So Dan is sending 2 or 3 of his probation officers, and I believe Dan is attending as well. IPD will be sending a few officers, Dryden, Ithaca College. So it's going to be really well attended. And another part of getting the grant is they work with the state, so they're actually going to reimburse each department $1,500 to help offset overtime expenses.
I guess my comment to Jen and Derek is thank you. This is really a great thing you're doing. So thanks for all your work on it. Shauna, you had a question or comment? Shauna? Shauna, did you want to comment? Annie, why don't we go to you?
Okay, thanks. So I had a question I'm relaying from the mayor of Trumansburg, Roden Hart. They had their village board meeting the other night. He just was interested to know if you're having staffing problems that would impact being able to respond to the Trumansburg area when their patrols are not on duty.
Well, we're probably having some difficulty all the way around just because of our current staffing issues. But, you know, I will say, you know, we have made some headway, which we're happy about. We have, I think we're down 8 people now on the road patrol, give or take. 6 are in the academy, so we made good leeway there. 2 of them are getting out next week and will start their field training. The other 4 had just started, so they're going to be unusable to us for a while. But the bottom line is our staffing levels on the road have not changed because we do have minimums that we put out. They're just funded differently. They're funded with overtime instead of, you know, just using regular patrols. So, yeah, so nothing's changed in that area. I'd have to say no.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll relay that to the Trumansburg Village.
And I see Shauna's back with us. Shauna, did you want to try?
Yeah, sorry about that. I first off just wanted to thank the Sheriff's Department. I did a ride along a few weeks ago, and it was really a great experience. I learned a ton, and it really, I mean, I always have appreciated our Sheriff's Department, but it really gave me insight as to what their world is on a single day. So thank you so much, and thank you to the men and women that work in your department and keep us safe. I also wanted to, I know that we had someone commenting at the beginning of our meeting, and I just wanted to extend the offer that if there are any sheriffs or anyone that works at the public safety building or in corrections that has a question or a comment and would like to have conversations, you know, the sheriff is available certainly, but I'm sure many legislators would also be open to a conversation.
Shauna, thank you for bringing that up because I was hoping to speak to the comments made during public comment. You know, it's certainly hard to hear that. It's good if that's the way an individual feels that they're sharing with us, so we know. I would like to say that as one of the 14 legislators, I certainly see our Sheriff's Department as vital to the overall public safety system in our county. I don't see a system where we can defund police. I think we have to supplement and add. And as you know, I've made a point of having letters read out loud at these meetings to demonstrate some of the critically important work that our deputies have performed, saving people's lives and really excellent public service in our community. And I think overall that's the view of the legislature. Certainly, you can look at individual comments in the context of the police reform debate that our country has had and say those are overly critical. And perhaps there's some truth in that, but I think overall, all of the legislators understand that there's really dedicated public servants in the sheriff's department. At any rate, it's unfortunate that that speaker was conveying one person's viewpoint that is really disappointed in our support, but I think that's not true overall. Henry.
Yes, I just want to just put a quick comment that I was at the NASAC meeting this week, and the Public Safety Committee also put in a resolution dealing with the civil service process for hiring people, hiring officers. And they said that they're going to also work with another committee to also try to get some movement in terms of that area. So I just wanted to let the sheriff know that NISAC is at least trying to step in to the civil service reform process for hiring officers.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I debated on saying something or not, but since we're talking about it, I guess I'll mention something. Yeah, I hadn't seen that comment, and I heard most of it. I think it was a little difficult to hear on my end. You know, I'm certainly always open to us improving, and there's always room for improvement. I think we've done a lot of good work, both the county and the sheriff's office, you know, including the legislature. You know, I think a lot of it comes from, you know, the deputies especially, and COs to maybe a slightly lesser extent. I mean, they've been put through a lot for a long time now. You know, all the COVID work, dealing with COVID ourselves in the office. We had several people get sick. They've all worked through the pandemic, you know, unless they had symptoms, even if they tested positive and weren't symptomatic, they still had to work because we had to keep public safety going. And you know, police reform, they've heard a lot of negativity from the community and things like that, and it just wears people down, I think, you know. And so I do see where they're coming from as well. But you know, we are turning the tide, so to speak. I think we've got a lot of people in the academy where we've made some good hires. We've done a lot of positive things. So I expect it, like all things, it's going to come and go, and we'll get through it just fine. So that's it.
Sure. And I would say that I see the ultimate goal of reimagining public safety as building much greater trust in the community in both directions. And if we can do that, if we can succeed in some measure, I would hope that it would make policing far more effective and safer for the officers as well as the public. That they'd get more assistance from the public, the whole public. And at any rate, I think there's reasons why reimagining public safety is a positive for police as well as others in the community who support it. But yeah, a lot of work to do. Yes.
So I would just elevate this in the sense of, I think with our tool, this is a comment that Mr. Nguyen read. It is posted, it is on the website, as is a lot of other comments that are on there as well. And so what we try to do is adhere to our social media guidelines, knowing that we're going to receive feedback that we haven't gone far enough or that we're going too far. And so, you know, working through this process and looking at ideas and feedback and things of that nature, we don't want to lose sight of why we're here in terms of executive order, looking at disproportionate minority contact. We have a lot of really great things that are happening in our community in terms of looking, for example, the CIT grant application was a great opportunity to partner with the Sheriff's Office. And also we're going to, with our healing plan, working with folks who've experienced generational trauma in terms of policing in different areas. And so I say all that to say that this won't be the first time that we'll see comments. You know, again, they're anonymous comments and our employees are welcome to comment on things. And also we can't verify whether it is an employee or not because it's anonymous. And so I also keep that in mind and in jest as we think about things. And so we don't want anybody to feel surprised that those things are out there. And I think it's important just to note this is what's happening in the space at the same time, knowing that this is a part of public discourse. And then we're also going to have folks who are also going to share stories where they feel like they've been treated disproportionately. And so I look forward to that dialogue as well. And so I just feel like that's important just to state specifically in this space and in my role as well as we look at the overall context for the conversation.
Thank you, Deanna. And Shauna.
Yes.
Not working.
With
Sorry, Shauna, it's not coming through. We can't hear you, Shauna. No, okay. Well, if you get a better connection, happy to jump back into this. Sheriff, we have a resolution. This is on page 54 of the packet, authorization to accept Triad Foundation donation and budget adjustment Sheriff's Office. And could I get a motion on that? Somebody move it? Dave moves, Glenn seconds. Thank you. Any questions, comments on this, Sheriff? What is this money going to be used for?
Yeah, the 10,000 of it is going towards a drone, which we've needed for a long time, and that's merely for search and rescue purposes. It's going to enhance our Project Lifesaver program. We've had a lot of other agencies, mainly the state police, utilize that in some of our calls. It's been very helpful. One of the other things that's going to be used for possibly is the BOLA wrap. It seemed like a good idea when we applied for it at the time. We've heard some negative comments about those devices, so we're going to take our time and kind of reflect on that one a little bit more and see if there's another option. And it's also going to be used for some bulletproof shields that will go on our supervisor's vehicle. So there's one at least available at all times. And the intent behind that is to help people at certain scenes stay safe and hopefully reduce the necessity of us necessarily having to call in the SWAT team. That may help us surround an area and provide safety and resolve the situation ourselves before getting to that level. So I think it's going to be a good thing.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Are we ready to vote? I will call the roll. Dave?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Shauna?
yes.
Oh, it came through, great. And the chair votes yes. All right, so that passes. Thank you, Sheriff. Anything else you want to share with us?
No, I think that'll do it. Thank you.
Okay, next up is the district attorney. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Rich. I see it's 4:30, so I'll try to be quick. But I'm happy that we're talking about the centralized arraignment part and very much in support of that, primarily for the purpose of getting our officers back on the road and minimizing the amount of time that they're out of service waiting for an arraignment. I think that's long overdue, so I'm happy about that and willing to put in whatever work is necessary to support that movement. As you mentioned, LEAD is going to be launched, and I think we're happy that that's happening and ready to fully engage with that program. I'm waiting patiently as a technical advisor for the city's working group for reimagining public safety. I'm told that at some point I will actually be allowed to participate, but I haven't been so far. So I'm waiting patiently for that to give my input into that process.
Remain patient. Matt, we'll get you in there.
Right. I never hold my breath for anything, but, here we are.
Okay.
We have started felony wellness and recovery court or felony mental health court. So that's a positive thing that we have established, based on the misdemeanor city wellness and recovery court that has been in place for a couple of years now. It's another ATI that we can use in our toolbox. And then finally, we're continuing to do trials. We're starting another trial tomorrow in county court on a felony sex case. We had one finish up a couple of weeks ago. We've done, I think, 5 trials since COVID started, and we've got them lined up, going into the end of the year, with the hope of moving some of the cases along that have been people have been in jail waiting for a trial and also just waiting for their day in court based upon the COVID related slowdown. So that's my update. Any questions? Happy to answer them.
Okay. Any questions for the district attorney? Great. Seeing none, thank you, Matt, and thank you for the brevity. Thanks. Next up is the Department of Emergency Response, and I see Michael Stitley and Jessica Verfuss. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we did submit both an August and a September report. You may have noticed when you looked at the September report, I'm sorry, what was that? I'm sorry, July and August, I'm sorry, July and August report. In the August report, we tried to highlight some of the work that's being done on the emergency management side of the house. So you'll notice that towards the back of the report, I am experimenting just a little bit on the best way to convey that information to the Public Safety Committee. But I thought it was really important that we're not just highlighting what we're doing in the 911 center, but we're again highlighting all the great work that's being done by the entire DOER team, especially on the emergency management side. I also just want to extend my gratitude to both the sheriff and the undersheriff for allowing us to have 3 spots in the CIT program. I think this is a really good example of how reimagining public safety really works, because for them to allow 3 spots for our dispatching team, I think it's just, again, it highlights exactly that initiative. And I just want to thank you both for your leadership, and we really do appreciate being part of that. The other thing I wanted to mention was on 9/11, the governor assigned a new law granting first responder status to 911 dispatchers. And some of that is still being fleshed out, but we're very excited that our dispatchers are finally going to be placed on the same stage as police, fire, and EMS, and finally recognized as the first responders that they are. And that's it, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Well, that's a big step. That is a long time coming. That's news. Any questions or comments for the Department of Emergency Response? And thank you for your input on the radios. I know that was a big topic for Mr. Young when he came in. So
yes, I look forward to meeting with him. I'm excited about that opportunity, and as I make my rounds around the county and meet more community partners, I certainly do embrace that opportunity to help find whatever opportunities we can to help not only that community-based service, but all the community-based services. Thank you.
Okay. Great, very good. Thank you. Moving on, we're Department of Probation and Community Justice. I see Dan and Carla are with us. Welcome.
Thank you, Rich. We're firing on all cylinders here with school resumed and fewer COVID restrictions. We have our family court officers back in all the school districts in Tompkins County doing their work where they were not allowed into the schools last year. So we're excited about that. Very appreciative, as Mr. Sitley mentioned, to the sheriff and undersheriff for allowing us to participate in the CIT training. We're excited about that opportunity. Not only is it going to help us in our work with our clients, but also one of our peer support specialists is attending that training to expand on her knowledge and education. So we're very appreciative for that opportunity. we're really starting to focus on trying to get more of our unemployed probationers into the workforce. Seems like there's a lot of opportunities with job openings. We have Cindy Sloan from Workforce Development coming to speak to the full staff next Thursday about some of those opportunities. We've alerted staff that there's a job fair coming up at the mall. And also recently met Rosemary Avila, who's the new lead at Workforce Development Council. So we're tapping into all of those resources to try to assist our officers in assisting their clients to get employed. I wanted to recognize Rich Brewer from our team. He's a security officer who works in our day reporting program. Unfortunately, our lead at the day reporting program has been out for a little bit with an injury. Rich has essentially kept that program open for us, working outside of his normal role in order to assist. And I'd like to publicly recognize him for doing that. I really appreciate it. And we're working on some other solutions to that issue. And other people in the department have also stepped up to help out. So we're in good shape here. I won't take up any more of anyone's time, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments for Department of Probation? I was wondering if you had anything more to add on the presentation we heard from earlier about people in reentry and housing.
Are you asking me, Rich?
Yeah.
I think it sounds like a phenomenal program. There's absolutely a correlation between unhoused parolees and unhoused probationers. While we don't work with the parolees very often, very occasionally we'll get someone who's on probation and parole, but it sounds like a very cost-effective solution to giving people really solid opportunities to live in the city of Ithaca, where they can access better employment. All the, people are housed out in Groton and Dryden. There are certainly jobs available, but it seems like the core of the economic, core of the jobs in Tompkins County is here in the city of Ithaca, or the town of Ithaca. So it would be good for people with no transportation to be here. It sounds, for $111,000 investment, not just the money, but the human impact that program can have is worth far more than the dollars, in my opinion.
I would assume if there was a similar opportunity for people in probation that you would support.
Absolutely.
That as well.
Absolutely. It's Carla and I dealt with a situation today with someone that she supervised who's a sex offender in one of those congregate care settings, who's having safety issues, and some are of his own creation and some are sources beyond his control. They're very difficult situations for people to live in. It's hard to live with 9 or 10 strangers, many of whom who are working through their own issues and difficulties. It's hard for anyone to find stability in a setting like that.
Thank you. All right, anything further for the probation department? All right, thank you then. Assigned counsel program. There's Lance. Yes, welcome.
Hi, Rich. I'm going to be real quick. I realize the time. I think the major updates for us, you've already talked about the centralized arraignment process. So I don't have anything else to add there. I can tell Matt, I'm in the same boat he is. The city hasn't contacted me either yet about reimagining police. So either. So it's not just him. So that was our big update, the CAP program. And so I won't go any further into it. I think everyone got a sense of that, and I'll just see if there are any questions. Otherwise we're just continuing on same as ever.
Okay, any questions for Lance? Well, seeing none. Thank you, Lance, and thanks for your input on the CAP. Yeah. Hey, any other business to come before the Public Safety Committee? Well, we covered a lot of ground today. So thank you, everybody. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn. If somebody would raise their hand. Henry, thank you. Dave, seconds. All those in favor? I think we're adjourned.
Aye.